Hello and welcome to my webcast. My name is Eric Bowers and my artist name is The Golden Repair. Along with my music and videos, I also love to interview people as part of my work as The Golden Repair. And that's what this webcast is for. Tonight I'm interviewing Yessia Muse, who I heard speak at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference at UBC last November. And I really loved her talk and asked her to come on my show. Yessia Muse is a ceremony facilitator who engages with the 5-body philosophy of embodied wellness. She's an advocate for the recognition of non-hallucinogenic medicines in blended body health. And the medicines she works with primarily are rapé, cacao, cannabis, Kambo, and intimacy. Welcome, Yessia. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah. And you are in Portland, as you just told me before we started?
Yes, I'm in Portland. That's where I'm based, and I travel a lot from here.
Okay. And as I was also saying to you, I love to put the work that people are doing that I'm interviewing in the context of their life. So tell me a little bit about growing up and where you grew up and how your growing up was part of this person that you are now in terms of a ceremony facilitator and healer and so on.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's funny because I don't talk about my childhood very much in life. And the reason why is because it's been a very difficult childhood. And there was a lot of intimacy that was lacking. And even though we were a very religious household, I felt like spirituality was lacking as well. And growing up, my closest experience of intimacy was my connection to my spirituality. So I think that made a big impression on me in developing as a young person, and where I valued spirituality more so than a lot of my peers. And so I decided to put a lot of intention into the way that I lived my life at an early age. And I think that has informed the path that I've been called to later on in life.
And can you tell us a bit about what that looked like in terms of, were you doing rituals for yourself? Were you connecting in different ways?
Well, yeah, I would expect that everything in life had a message for me and everything was happening for a reason. So I would look for those reasons. And as I was preparing myself or my space or adorning myself, I would do it very intentionally. And for a while, I never talked about these things because it seemed a lot more woo-woo and spiritual than the people in my life at the time. And nobody would really understand that. But as I grew into adulthood and I realized that I really did value spirituality, I decided to bring more ritual and ceremony into my everyday life. And then I was able to, as I kind of, it's been really a romance with my own spirituality, really connecting to myself on this intimate level and learning how to meet my divine self. And so as I've been through that, I've been able to also create an outline for the way that I live my life and choose some specific commitments that I can make for myself that allows me to have a container for my spirituality. So it's really been steps upon steps upon steps. Everything has been evolving into the next thing. In my adult life, I've seen that at the times that I've been the most depressed or felt the most distressed in my life, I have been the farthest away from my spirituality. Yeah. So I realized that a great part of my own health and well-being, my emotional health and my mental health, is my connection to my spirituality. And so when I realized that was true for myself, I thought that this might be true for everyone. I can't say for sure. Some people claim to not need spirituality and they feel much healthier that way. And that might be right for them. So I can't say that everybody needs to have spiritual intimacy, but for those of us who do, then I like to offer a way to start discovering that for themselves. Yeah.
So I want to get into that more, but first I'm just so curious about your story so far. Was there an early influence, or were you just kind of following your heart and experimenting with what you knew inside?
Well, an early influence for ritual, for ceremony, for medicine, spirituality, any or
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
um,
Like it's what I'm hearing is you had a religious family who were not living the way that felt right for you, and
right.
you knew there was a different way for you. And were you
Well,
just discovering that, or were there some influences you had?
well, I was discovering that on my own. So I was
Yeah,
kind of learning how to listen to myself more because I
right,
knew I couldn't trust the people who were supposed to be leading me on my path. And so I learned how to listen inward and I learned how to listen to God more. And so
uh,
then I actually started because I was in Christianity. So that was the spirituality that I started with. I started reading the Bible every single day and went through it in a period of 2 years. I went through the Bible 1.5 times. And I really made myself meditate on it. And I didn't know what meditation was in the moment, but kind of looking within for a new meaning to these words or the feeling, the essence of what these words really meant. And also discerning whether this was like truth that resonates with my heart or this is something that I can just discard because it has nothing to do with me. It had something more to do with political of the times or something.
right,
Um, and as I was actually doing this in high school, I started spontaneously having little spiritual awakenings. And then at one night, I had a spiritual awakening where all of my, I don't know if it was all of my spirit guides, but I had several spirit guides around me, about 6 or 7 of them. And they were showing me different parts of my life and how they were connected to different things.
hmm,
Um, and then it was just a huge download. And so I didn't know what to make of it. I expected them to be angels, is how I could say what they were.
right,
And I just felt more wise the next day. And when I went to school, I started seeing auras, and I didn't know what auras were. And so I mentioned this only to one person, one classmate, and a teacher, our favorite teacher, who was a drama teacher. And she told me I was seeing auras. And then she suggested that I had gone to the Akashic Records.
oh wow,
I saw a big, they were like library cards from the floor all the way till you could see all the way up. And every row of cards that you pull out was a different person. And I knew I could choose anybody's row, but I wasn't interested in anyone else's. I was interested in mine. So I
right,
pulled mine out. And there were little cards that actually had a digital moving image in it. And I could go into the image, and it was a story or a chapter or a piece of my life. And then as I was in it, then I could see it from a different perspective. And they were explaining to me these little pieces that were affecting all other parts of the earth, the planet, the people, the interactions, my own personal development. So I was getting all this multi-sensory information as a big download, and it felt like it unlocked something for me internally, even I don't know if I maybe genetically even, but it really felt
right.
huge for me. And so
And you're a
that
teenager at this point.
yeah, I was 16, and so from
Wow,
that moment on, I was very much more sensitive to what was going on around me in my energy field and in other people's energy fields. I
right,
only saw the auras for about a year after that because then I graduated from high school and I went to New York City. And at that time, I was seeing for the first time that I knew of energy vampires that were really taking energy from me and from other people, and it seemed really sinister and I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't even hardly know what these auras symbolized. And so I decided I didn't want to see it anymore because it was too scary. And I didn't know how to handle the fear that was coming up in me. And if I
right,
couldn't manage my own fear, then I just didn't want to see it. So it was taken away from me. I remember having that conversation with my angels at the time. And they're like, "Are you sure? Because once we turn it off, you're not going to be able to turn it on for a really long time." And I was like,
right.
"That's fine." But what happened was taking away the physical sight, I was able to refine my inner sight and my sensitivities in other ways.
Uh-huh.
And so I was still able to be tapped in and aware like that, but just not see it in the same physical sense.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of my whole like true spiritual path where I'm like, okay, this is real and I'm not going anywhere else. This spirituality has something to do with me and my life and is very important to me. I value it.
Yeah, that's quite a beginning, and
Yeah.
it really brings up for me that how necessary it is to have mentors or people who help, to understand all of it and know what to do with all of it. And,
Absolutely. I think that's also what has caused me later on in life to offer myself as a life coach when I got certified as a life coach, and then moving more into spiritual counseling and then into ceremony facilitation, where we can learn from one another and teach one another how to be more empowered in our everyday life. So I do love witnessing my own life and recognizing how everything is built on the last thing.
Yeah. So from there, you're young 20s now. And a lot of people don't really step into a spiritual life until they're older. Did you just continue on from there, or did you kind of go more into a conventional life from there?
No, I continued on from there on the spiritual life until there was a few years later in my 20s, if you really have time for all this. I don't know how far you want me to go.
I love stories, so.
Well, yeah, I left New York and I went to Europe to just travel and find myself. I was battling some depression and some suicidal tendencies and confusion, and I was pre-diagnosed with manic depressive disorder, which my father had been diagnosed with, and I decided they wanted me to come back to get to decide what kind of medication they were going to put me on, and I just never went back. I decided that I didn't agree with well, there was a lot of things, but I didn't want to take the pharmaceutical medications. And I knew that there was another way to heal myself. And so I decided to go to Europe and find myself. And so for 2 years, I worked on that. And I was able to clear those patterns that they would call manic depressive, or now bipolar disorder is the same thing. I was able to clear those patterns completely from my field. And of course, I still feel sad at times when it's appropriate, or angry or whatever, but I'm able to move through those emotions really easily, and I never get really low or really manic. And so I feel much more stable in my entire being, my entire expression. So that was between 2000 and 2002, and I worked on it 24/7. I didn't really work a job. I was with all these transient artists who were also kind of hitchhiking all over the place. I kind of ended up mostly in London and was in the squatting community. And so it was a lot of artists and free thinkers and people who were kind of living on the edge of society. And I could put everything I had into my own personal development and growth, and be completely aware and of my subconscious thoughts that were bleeding through day in and day out, and do extensive journaling and also research and reading and finding out that, oh, I'm really malnutritioned actually. And so that's affecting my brain chemistry, which is affecting my moods. And I'm lacking in these vitamins and enzymes. And so then I started really taking care of myself better. And I broke it down. I also started doing more exercise, because I didn't have a strict schedule to follow. I didn't go to work and sit down at a desk and that was my life. Because I didn't have things to do, I could walk all day long. So I ended up walking like 20 to 23 miles a day. Wow. But I was looking for things that I could use for recycled art. So I was engaging my creativity at the same time as I was walking, I was doing a lot of contemplation and really being focused about what's happening with me internally on the emotional landscape, and being aware of my physical landscape. What did I eat today, or how much water did I have? And then just my subconscious thoughts that were coming through. So it was a constant work for me. And I realized the exercise, the nutrition, and the introspection or the meditation time, those were the 3 things that were the recipe for success in this case. But I was able to put almost 24/7 into that all the time. And if some big trauma came up for me, then I could just stop and be with that, because I didn't have kids, because I didn't have the schedule, because I didn't have the school. And it made me realize how difficult it must be for people who are trying to live with all those things, as most people do in society. And then also they're trying to reach out for help, and people are just shoving medications down their throats. And it does help in the short term, but it's not really fixing the problem. So yeah, that was a huge recognition for me from the beginning, that you can heal yourself. And there's a lot of deep wisdom to be gained when you have the opportunity to sit with your internal divinity, whether that divinity is a source that you're reaching to from outside of yourself, or it's a source that comes from within that's eternal.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just having the knowledge and being aware of the nutrition and how that's affecting all the different aspects of your body, the physical, emotional, spiritual, and also the intellectual or the sexual aspects of your body.
Well, I'm really inspired by your perseverance and just dedication to your health there, and to going your own route with it.
Thanks.
And I love the ways you worked with it. Can you say a little bit more? I get the exercise, I get the nutrition, I get creativity as a huge piece. I'm just curious, can you say more about how you worked with the thoughts that were part of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I heard you say meditation. So was it mostly a non-identifying with the thoughts, that kind of meditative states? And
yeah, it was more of a being aware and witnessing what was coming through as I was just trying to be fully present with every step that I took, or every interaction I was doing, or everything I was creating or finding or pulling. I was also trying to take a step back and notice, what are the other thoughts or feelings that are coming through here on the outsides?
right.
Because I know even all of us have multiple things that are going on in our minds and in our emotional bodies, because there's things going on around us. So we have external influences that are affecting us. Maybe there's like a sound across the street that is actually giving us a little bit of an anxious feeling in our nervous system, but we're able to tune that out because we think we're focused. We're focused on getting this task done. But there are dozens and dozens of things like that externally, not to mention the things internally, like the bills that I'm putting off, or the fight that I had the other day, and I'm just putting those out of my mind, we think, in order to focus on this. But we're actually not being fully present with that moment, because if we are, then all of those things will be available to us at the same time to look at, or at least to witness. And in my experience, all they want to be is witnessed and acknowledged. So I just put things together based on the books that were coming up to me and the research I was doing and the internal knowledge that would be inspired to me, and I just followed it. And that's what I would love to be an inspiration for other people to do, to find your own truth, your internal inspirations, your internal connection to your own divinity, to your higher power, to higher source, because that's where an infinite amount of knowledge and wisdom is, and that's where we'll get all the answers to everything that we need.
Sounds like a really deep intimacy with your whole life, just being really present to all of the different aspects that are influencing you, that are in your experience, whether they're internal or external, not hiding from it, not denying it, just being really present with all these different pieces that might be influencing your state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I was, it could be that I'm predisposed to spirituality and religion and needing to like be aware of these things and further my personal growth and development. It could be that that's not everybody's thing. There was an article about the God gene in Time magazine, October 2004, and they were talking about that they had discovered a particular gene, the God gene, that when turned on predisposes somebody to spirituality and religion.
Wow.
And they were seeing that some people were born with this gene already turned on, and other people did not have it on, or sometimes it would be turned on later in life, maybe after a traumatic event or something. And so they were showing proof of genetic evolution within one lifetime, but I just found it very fascinating that it could be all down to just one gene being turned on or off, which can change at any point. So it's possible that I already had it turned on, because I feel like I've been that way most of my life.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems like, and you were a part of a community, which I think is a pretty important piece as well. Would you say that, Not being alone, not being so alone in it was a helpful piece.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because it gave me a routine and it gave me something to get out of my headspace a little bit or get out of the emotions that I'm processing. So I feel like the most healthy way, the best way I can describe it is to work in a spiral. So you go out of the things that you're processing and out of your head, but then you come back in from a slightly different perspective. Because when you're going out and engaging with people, engaging with the world, even if you're just going to the store,
Right.
and it's giving you different information that you're taking in, and it's allowing your brain a break to maybe be able to rearrange things in a different order, and then when you go back in, you're coming back in a little bit different perspective. And I think that's the best way to work with any kind of trauma release or healing process, is to give yourself the opportunity to get out of it for a little bit and then come back in and focus on it, and then out and in.
Particularly if you're going out to something that's supportive and resourceful. It's, a good trauma approach. That's the word I use, is titration of being with the trauma, being with a resource, and a community is such an important resource, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And community will allow us to feel supported and allow us to feel safe enough to trust ourselves and trust one another. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Just looking at my notes here. So can you tell me more about the 5-body philosophy? I haven't heard of that. What's that all about?
Yeah. So this is a philosophy that came in my deep meditations about intimacy a few years ago. So the 3 main bodies are physical, emotional, spiritual. Those are the ones that are often talked about a lot. And then I'm thinking about the mental body, mental health, what the intellectual body is for, and what was shown to me, and in the work that I do, how I see it reflected back to me, is that the mental body, the intellectual body, is a reflection of the health and balance of the 3 main bodies. The health and balance of the physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And then the sexual body is an amplification of the health and balance of the 3 main bodies. And so I do also believe in sex therapy and sexological body work, especially if people are working on reconnecting to their healthy sexuality or in clearing past sexual trauma. I don't personally work with people with the sexual body, but I see the benefit in it. However, I've found that it's the most important for people to work on clearing and balancing their physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies as much as possible first, before engaging directly with the sexual therapies or healing the sexual body. And I think that it is very beneficial to work on those ones first before you start really getting into the heady parts of psychology and maybe of talk therapy and being more analytical in your approach. So when I work with people in that way, then they find great benefit in being able to move a lot faster through their healing process and not really get stuck in any one place, but it feels like it's more like a moving machine and every piece is helping the other piece move forward.
So it sounds like you're saying that if the physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies are in good health, then the mental body is going to just reflect that. It'll be in good health.
Yeah, it comes online of its own accord.
So the mental, if there's, so yeah, the way that a lot of therapy has been traditionally is going in the reverse order. It's trying to sort out the thought, thinking, and so on, which I think is becoming more and more clear as not an effective way to work.
Right. And it's a useful tool, but not an effective way to work for processing, I think.
Yeah, to get to the root of things, right?
Yeah.
So where did Kambo come into your life, in your trajectory of your life?
Yeah.
And can you just, for people who are new to Kambo, can you say a little bit of, or as much as you want, about what that is?
Yeah. Kambo is a non-hallucinogenic frog venom. So It's a secretion taken off the back of a frog in the Amazon. The Kambo that I get right now is directly through IAKP, the International Association of Kambo Practitioners.
Okay.
And we are directly supporting the Matsis tribe. So they prepare Kambo only for IAKP and the students there. And none of the frogs are ever harmed in the collection of this secretion. They don't have any predators. So they call them at sunrise and they come right into their hands. Yeah. And they take the secretion off their back with a flat stick, and then they massage their feet and they secrete more on their back, and then they go back into the forest. And every time a new frog comes to them, then they have a way of checking to see if they have harvested from that frog recently, and if so, they won't.
Right.
So this is a medicine that has been used for probably centuries, and it was only recently in the past few decades that it's been brought to the West, and we've been able to experience it more here. So as we've been able to look at the science behind this secretion, we've seen that it has 7 main peptides that is being dropped off in your gut biome. It's kicking out settled toxins out of each of your organs as it's passing through your organs, and it's helping to boost your immune system in this way. So it is a purgative. It causes you to purge, yep. Like an extreme detox feeling. Yep. But it's been known to clear autoimmune disorders and PTSD and depression. And the testimonials I was hearing about this when I first came across Kambo were blowing me away, because they were very similar to the testimonials I was getting from working with my clients, helping them to resolve trauma or to come back into full embodiment and into all their senses. But I would have to work with those clients for 2 to 3 months to get these same results. Right. And with Kambo, it was taking 2 to 3 days. Mm-hmm. And so I decided I needed to experience that. And I came across it in 2016 and realized, if this is true and people are experiencing it in this way and getting these deep results, then this is something I need to be giving to my clients. Uh-huh. And if it's true, this is something I need to give to myself first. Yeah. And so I found a wonderful ceremony to join, and it blew me away. In my first day sitting with Kambo, I could only really be aware of what's going on with me physically. And when I completed the process, which is only about 20 minutes of purging, I felt like I had been on a juice fast for 3 weeks. Wow. I felt like I was glowing. I felt energized. I felt happy. I felt lighter, physically lighter. The next day that I sat with Kambo, then it was actually really difficult for me that day. And a part of it, I got blocked in my solar plexus and my heart chakra, and it felt like I couldn't purge it out, but I was resisting surrendering to this purge. But having gone through it and getting to the other side, I felt like first of all, during the process, I was able to be more aware of what's going on with me emotionally in the emotional landscape, because I had been through it once, so right. I knew what to expect. And so as I'm going through the process, then I realize, oh, I'm feeling all this rage, and then the purge would come out. And then, oh, I'm remembering this image or this person or this situation, and then the purge would come. And at the very end, the woman giving the ceremony ended up being my mentor after that. Okay. But she can read the purges just like she's taught me to do now. So then it was validating these emotions and these blocks and these things that were coming up. Wow. And I was releasing. So I felt... So she's reading what you've purged, and in looking at the purge, she can tell what emotions were involved. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's like different colors that come out of you with different consistencies, and then based on the color, it's related to a certain organ, and that organ in Chinese medicine holds right. a certain kind of emotional energy. Right. So you can just get really deep about what you're releasing if you want to know. Some people don't even want to know. They're like, just get it out of me. I just feel better. Yeah. And on the third day, I felt like I could be even more aware of what's going on in my energetic field, the actual shifts that were happening, and how it was attached to different people in my life or even part of my family, and how my changes in my energetic field were directly affecting them in real time. that's what I was experiencing as I was going through the process. So every time you sit with this medicine, you can become more and more aware of all these subtleties of your entire being, of what's going on with you and how things are shifting and changing. And it is a collaborative medicine. So because it's non-hallucinogenic, you get to decide how deep you want to go and when you want to be done. You can take the points off. They're little points that you put on little burn marks, usually on your arm. And if you want to be done, or it feels overwhelming, if you take those points off, then within 10 seconds, your body will start to normalize.
Okay.
So you're in just as much control as the spirit of the frog is.
Wow.
And really, the ceremony facilitator is there to hold good space for you, to be a support, and to keep things safe.
Yeah. So how come you were resisting the purge on the second day?
There was a lot of things that were coming up about sexual trauma in my past and emotional traumas that I had been through that I didn't realize I was still holding in my body, and that there was some part around my solar plexus that was really tight and wanting to hold on to it. And then when it felt like it was moving past my stomach and into my chest, it felt like it was really tight around my heart as well. And so there was some part of me in my subconscious mind that wanted to hold on to my pain, or that didn't know how to surrender to it, because then you'd have to, like, at least for a moment, you'd have to be in the full experience of that again in order to release it. And so that was just what my body was doing physically and emotionally, was kind of like contracting and holding on and closing down. So it was very uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it was necessarily painful, but I was definitely suffering in that moment, and the purge wasn't able to come. And so in that moment, actually, was the first time I had rape. Wow. So after all of this, like being in all of that, then my mentor said, "Okay, I think rape is going to help you. I'm going to blow this tobacco snuff up your nose." And
so
I'm
rape
like,
is
"Are you
tobacco
sure?"
snuff.
Yeah. And she's like, "Yes, trust me, it will help you." And it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to have, especially for your first time when you're with Kambo, because they blow it up your nose and it gives you this splitting headache for a minute sometimes. There's several different blows. So when I offer it, I can do it in a gentle way, but I think my mentor only knew the hard way. So she shoots it up into my sinuses, into my brain. And then, of course, you have to do the other side to balance it out. But right after that, right after I got over my brain being shot off, all of a sudden, just all my muscles and my energy field and my emotions just relaxed and grounded. And that opened things up enough for the purge to just come out really fast and really easily. So I didn't even have to try to be purging. It just comes out. It moves itself out. And then it was fast and it was over with. And so that was very helpful. I do have rape available if it needs to be used in that way. And also if somebody is an alcoholic, or if they drink alcohol on a regular basis, but they don't think they're an alcoholic, maybe their body thinks they're an alcoholic, they may not stop purging with Kambo. So if that's the case, then I'll recognize it and I'll give them rape, and rape makes them stop purging then at that point. So it helps you feel better in either way, whichever way you need. So yeah, that's a tobacco snuff from the Amazon as well.
So then I think you said the third day you were starting to be aware that if you tuned into the emotion that was there, that would help the purge. Is that what you said? Or the issue?
That was even on the second day.
Oh, that was on the second day.
That was the big day when all that stuff was happening, and I was recognizing the emotions and the images and the memories that were coming up. But then also noticing what's going on with me physically. And I didn't really know how to put them together until the purge was basically done. And then I was realizing the things that were coming up inside me was the purge. It was what I was releasing on these other levels. And on the third day, it was more about expanding my awareness and my sensitivities, refining my sensitivities, to be more with my energetic field. So I was recognizing how things felt like they were shifting, kind of in a it felt like there were shapes in my field and the shapes were shifting.
Mm.
And then also recognizing where there's cords and attachments that I have to different people or different expectations or to my family, and how as things are shifting in my field, it's reverberating into theirs. So it was more of a cosmic recognition, but it wasn't that my focus or my awareness shifted to that. It had expanded to that.
Okay.
So on the first day, it's really like, what's happening with my body? All I know is what's going on with my body. On the second day, it's, I know what's going on with my body, and what's happening with my emotions.
Yeah.
And then on the third day, it's like, okay, the body, I know that's happening. This is happening with the emotions. And well, what is this? And I have these sensitivities to my energetic field. And I do want to say that because it's a collaborative medicine, you can go as deep or not as deep as you want to go with this medicine. If you just want to even not have to go there and not have to look that deep into it, not have to be that aware, you just want it out of you, then it works for that too. Some people come and use the medicine only for a physical issue. And I've even had people work with it successfully who didn't believe that whatever they were experiencing emotionally was affecting them physically, but they wanted the physical issue to be gone. So we still used the medicine. It still cleared the physical issue, but I knew that it was clearing the physical issue because it was clearing their emotional body as well. And they did recognize that they still, afterwards, they felt peaceful, they felt zen, they felt much happier. So, yeah.
That to me brings up the question of, I'm resonating with what you're saying, and if in my mind, if someone isn't making the connection between the emotional and the physical, I can see that they would feel better, but then they would just go and recreate the pattern again. It's true.
Yeah. It's true. That's, for me personally, as a practitioner, I prefer to work with people who are ready to make changes and are ready to really face the truth or the challenges of whatever's necessary for them to move into the next level of their personal growth and evolution.
Yeah.
But sometimes people come into my life or into my field who are like, I have cancer, I want it gone, I don't want to do chemo. And then we work with them on that.
Yeah.
So there is a protocol for cancer too. But what I find is the longer that I work with someone, if we're doing a whole protocol, the more that they're becoming open to sharing with me and receiving from me the things that I'm inspired to share as well. And so it turns into a kind of deeper awareness than they had really wanted or expected at the beginning.
Sure.
But I never push my beliefs or my views on people, because I want to hold a good space for them to feel safe to have the experience that they need to have.
Sure. Yeah. Can we step back a minute here? Because part of me loves the science pieces as well. So you said there's 7 major or main peptides. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
And can you say why that's important?
Well, that is important because of the gut biome is responsible for the health of all aspects of our being. So science has shown recently in the past decade that our gut is considered to be one of our brains. Mm-hmm. And if our gut is healthy, then we have healthy mental faculties and healthy emotional ties, and all the different parts of our physical body are balanced. And so oftentimes in today's day and age, it can be very difficult to find that balance, to find the time to be so aware of what's going on with our body as things shift and change in our polluted environments. But I feel like if you work with something that is targeting your gut biome and bringing healthy peptides and enzymes to help repopulate your gut, then you're on the right track for everything else that you might do in your life.
Right. Thank you. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is it more common to have 3 days for working with Kambo, or is it sometimes one session, or what's the different ways?
There's definite benefits from sitting even once or twice. The traditional inoculation is 3 times in a lunar cycle, so 3 times in a month. Many times people want to sit 3 days in a row because it's easier for their schedule.
Right.
So I often will hold group ceremonies 3 days in a row. And then sometimes I work with people one-on-one based on their schedule, or with couples as well. So yeah, it depends on what people are working on, and if they really want to get to the root of an issue, or especially if they've sat with Kambo before, maybe they know that they just need a booster and they just need this one because they know how to sit with it deeper. I do recommend that if it's the first time ever somebody's working with this medicine, that they really give it a chance and sit with it 3 times in a lunar cycle so that they can really see how deep they can go with this medicine.
Right. Have you worked with hallucinogenic medicines at all? Or?
I have, yeah. But I work with them with myself, not with clients. With clients, I do non-hallucinogenic medicine. I've done both in my lifetime. I feel like what translates, what crosses over is that for me, someone for whom spirituality is very important and I value it a lot, the spiritual insights that I get with hallucinogenic medicine, I want to have all the time in my everyday life. And I want to be that connected. And so I know that I can be, but it's just about refining our antennas, refining our sensitivities, putting more awareness and presence into everything that we do. And so when we can work with other things that are non-hallucinogenic medicines, which can be anything, if a medicine is a substance that is helping you to bring, or has the potential to help you to bring all of your parts into a harmonious balance, that can be food, that can be dance, that can be music. And so if we start to see everything as a non-hallucinogenic medicine, then we can start to honor it as that and bring it into our lives as such, and maybe use it more with ritual, use it more with ceremony, use it more with intention, until pretty soon our entire lives can be filled with rituals and intentions.
Beautiful. Wow. Let me just check my notes here again. You, on your information that you sent me, there's something about Sacred Heart Alliance and the Traveling Temple Network. I'm really curious about those. I've never heard of either. Yeah,
thank you for asking. So I'm a strong advocate, even though we're using technology. Technology is a great tool. I'm a strong advocate for having in-person networks and in-person connections. And as such, I am also very passionate about living from the Sacred Heart space and finding your connection, your own connection to source, to your own divinity. And so the more I can help people do that, or give people tools for accessing that within themselves, the more I feel fulfilled in life anyway. And so I haven't been doing a lot with it online, which is why you haven't seen a lot of it. I've been doing a lot with it in person and in communities. And so the Sacred Heart Alliance is a group of healers and facilitators who are also committed to living that connection, to being engaged with the Sacred Heart space and from the Sacred Heart space. And we collaborate. We're asking everybody as a part of the group to collaborate with someone else in the group, at least one other person in the group, just a couple times a year, and put on donation-based events that are centered around helping people to access and activate their Sacred Heart space. Beautiful. And as healers and as facilitators, we all have different things that we can offer, or different tools that we can pull out to help people do that. So it's a way to cross-promote us as healers and facilitators. It's a way to offer our services to the community in love, and to reach more people, and to further our mission of helping to activate those Sacred Heart spaces. And then the Traveling Temple.
So wait a minute, before you go to there, so if people are interested in more, is there anything online they can find for more about, or not yet?
Yes, I'm asking people just to message me on Facebook, and then I'm adding people to an email list.
I see.
So on Facebook, you can find me, Yessia Muse. And with the traveling temple, we've been on one tour. So the idea is to continue connecting the network of healers and of healing communities across the country and even across the world, so that we can create a mutually supported network where we're hosting one another in our cities or in our towns, and we bring our information and our offerings and our events, and we have people to host us and to help promote us, and then we are able to reciprocate that in the Northwest. And as we grow, that will be able to happen more and more simultaneously all over the place at the same time. So anybody can travel or anybody can host. So that is what the traveling temple is all about.
Beautiful. Wow. I'd like to finish with the topic of intimacy. That's something I've spent a lot of time learning and teaching. And I have a book that's essentially all about the science and the heart of intimacy. And one of the places I've gotten to recently, well, I don't know how recently, but anyway, it keeps refining, is that in order for healthy intimacy between two people, each person needs to be deeply committed to whatever the word is, spiritual or soul. They need to have a deep commitment to the inner world and the expression of that in order to meet someone else in a healthy, intimate way. And if they're not, then they start projecting their own divinity onto their partner, which is doomed, because nobody can hold. They're not supposed to hold that level of projection. And so it seems like that's very aligned with all the things you're saying, but I'm wondering if you can add to what I'm saying or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to me is that what I've learned for myself anyway is that my most important relationship is my relationship with myself. And so my most important intimacy is the intimacy that I hold or I engage with the other aspects of myself.
Right.
And however I am doing that with my own spirituality, or going inner to my own emotional processing, or just being present with the emotional landscape, with my physical body, how I treat my physical body, the more I have an intimate relationship with these parts of myself, the more I can offer myself for deeper intimacy with others. But it's only as deep as I go with myself can I go with others. And not everybody is a good match. And that's why it's great to have good conversation about, and honesty with yourself about where you're at in your own intimate process with yourself. Like, what is your relationship with yourself, and how deep are you willing to go? And if you're not willing to go so deep, or however deep, there's no judgment around that. It's just recognizing where you are. Sometimes you don't have the capacity for going deep.
Sure.
And that's okay. And so I feel like if people had the ability to recognize where they're at on those levels and then communicate that to one another, then we'd be able to find better compatibility within our relationships, and then also cultivate a deeper understanding and a deeper compassion for the way that people move through their process, or the way that we flow through our evolution, because we're never stagnant beings. We're always shifting and changing and evolving just a little bit. And there is no better or worse, or evolving bigger or not. It's just always in a state of movement. And so, so for me, it is about using the 5-body philosophy and intimacy. And when you're really present with the intimacy and you're willing to be surrendered to the vulnerability, then you can experience the medicine that intimacy has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why, to me, intimacy is also a medicine. And also reclaiming that word and reclaiming the meaning of intimacy, because our Western society has made it assume to mean sexual intimacy or maybe a romantic intimacy, when intimacy itself doesn't presume romanticism, doesn't presume sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. And so that's, yeah, it's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, helping people to be with and uncover within themselves so they can be happier and healthier and really have embodied wellness.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to think of similarly to how you were saying the mental body is a reflection of the other bodies. The intimacy we have with others is a reflection, I think, of all of those bodies as well.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's I very much resonate with that. So when we can see, when we can witness ourselves and how we interact with other people and what kinds of intimacy we're allowing ourselves to have with other people or not allowing ourselves to have, it does give us another perspective and maybe an insight into our shadow of maybe what we're not looking at about ourselves, about our own intimacy with ourselves. Or it can give us a validation and a celebration
Yeah.
of what we can appreciate about our own growth and our intimacy with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to say about any of the things that you're passionate about? Just to, and where are you? Do you see yourself going, or anything that you want to share? Just to with some
Yeah,
completion.
thank you. Well, where I see this going is just helping to be a part of a movement to engage more with life and to engage more authentically with one another and to show up more fully for ourselves, and to not be abandoning ourselves. It feels like it's a movement for embodied wellness, a movement for a new way of being whole and well and happy in our lives and being able to be more empowered in our lives. And so as I move forward with really embodying these philosophies, then I'm also offering, besides offering different kinds of ceremonies, I'm also offering a ceremony facilitation course where people can learn how to develop a ceremony or a ritual that is personalized for themselves and how to actually connect to the spirits of different medicines and how to really honor certain substances or certain things in life as medicine,
Right.
even if they're not traditionally or non-traditionally considered so. So that's where I feel like I'm moving with it, because I'm really passionate about it and I want to really be a part of this movement for a new way of being in the world.
And I just have one more question coming up. What would you say? I'm pretty sure there's going to be people watching this interview who have no relationship to ceremony and medicine, quote unquote. But maybe they're a little bit curious, or, what would you say to people who are new to these things that you're talking about? Because you're a person that seems pretty exceptional in terms of the people I've met, in that you started pretty early. You had a certain comfort with it, with being so intentional and present and reflective and all of that.
Yeah, I think I would ask them, first of all, how well do they want to know themselves?
Yeah.
And or how well do they want to know God? Because in my experience, it's one and the same, or you get to one through the other. And in that way, it's the same, almost like a toroidal field. And then that will be able to inform what they want to do with ceremony. And if they really have the desire to connect to spirit, or they want to just connect to the earth and to connect to the elements, and that's okay too. You can be really present with just what you can feel, in with your physical body, or just what you can see with your physical eyes. You can be present with this as well. And so depending on how deep they want to go or which aspects of their being they want to activate, that's really going to be what leads them. And that's their own truth. And that's the way that they find their true power, is by choosing what they want to do with that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would ask. How well do you want to know yourself, and how deep do you want to know God?
Yeah. I can say for myself that one of the ways I'm knowing myself more is that I have been exploring more ritual and ceremony, and it feels kind of vulnerable. It's not a comfort zone for me. I also grew up in a Christian family that I didn't, enjoy in terms of church and all of that. And there's that association, which I'm aware of, so that helps. And there's just a trusting, I guess, trusting myself and my intention, and yeah, I love it, and it's vulnerable at times.
Yeah, sometimes it takes another person to be there as your support and as your cheerleader, to give you other perspectives about yourself, to kind of be the reflection back to you that you are not able to see or you're unwilling to see. And I do understand kind of feeling stuck or stagnant, not being able to know which way to go because you don't quite trust yourself. So how are you supposed to trust God, for example, if God is within you? Or how are you supposed to trust yourself if you can't trust God? And like, we're all a part of everything. And so that takes a good amount of being able to hold space for someone to move through that process, and to be with being okay with not knowing, or feeling that it could be everything and it could be nothing at the same time, as we can be everything and nothing simultaneously. And when you get that sense or that sensation or that feeling, then I feel like that's when we come into alignment with our divine being. So sometimes, yeah, it just takes someone holding space and giving you different perspectives until you can get there.
And I find plant medicine helps a lot too, actually. It really deepens my intention and my relationship with my own divine self.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes it's important to bust down all the walls and get down as deep as you can, because you're getting nowhere by just trying to do it in a gentle way. And so sometimes going on a deep hallucinogenic journey is kind of what you need in order to get the message, in order to have it almost hit over your head, so you wake up and you can get to a new level. And then maybe you can start proceeding again from that new place. Sometimes when people are lacking integration, then it can be hard to bring all of the insights from your hallucinogenic journey into your everyday life and really be able to integrate it. So I always advocate people to work with an integration coach if they have one. And when you start working with non-hallucinogenic medicines that seriously as well, then you become sensitive to those deep journeys that are happening for you on a regular basis in everyday life. And you don't have to seek out so much integration time or processing, because you're able to do it in real time, because we're more with all of our senses, and we're refining the depths of our awareness. But both of them are very valid, and both of them are very useful at different times, just depending on where we're at. If we really just need to break everything down and get in there, and then take some time integrating that, or if we can integrate that little by little in a gentle way and just get deeper and deeper as we give ourselves more time to work with it.
Thank you so much. And how can people find you if they want to work with you or know more about what
Yeah,
you're offering?
you can find me on Facebook. My public page is Embodied Divinity, and it still has my name, Yessia Muse. And you're welcome to send me a message there or on my personal profile. I like to connect with people one-on-one, Skype, texting, or in-person meetings.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yessia. It's been a real pleasure and a real inspiration too.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to getting to know you better as well.
Take good care.
You too.